Now, I know that you had this fantasy, right? When you moved to a new place, you were expecting all of these things happening to you, right? You come to a new place and then all of a sudden people want to get to know you, you make new friends, and then you'll have experiences. But fortunately, that's not how it works anymore. It used to be like that. Back in the day, when I hear stories about people that are older than me that lived in the 90s or even 2000s, they just went to a place, they went out into a club or whatever, and people were just eager to meet each other, right? People wanted to socialize. But these same people, they tell me that it's not like that anymore, which is kind of sad, but that's just the reality. So you had this fantasy, but then you turned out being depressed, lonely, having no stories, wasting your time, and even asking yourself why you came there in the first place. Well, that basically happened to me. In 2021, I went to Paris. I moved to Paris. I didn't have a job in Paris. I didn't have any friends at that point in Paris. So I just went to Paris because I thought, yeah, it's the city that is alive. Like, things are going to happen to me. As soon as I step foot on the land, then things are going to happen. But that was not the case. I was lonely, I felt like I was wasting my time. I just ended up watching YouTube videos on a Saturday night, swiping on Tinder, going on useless dates, but not even forming real friendships or, creating stories. And that's actually when I decided to make a change. I said, you know what? Fuck this. I didn't come here to waste my time. So I decided that I'm going to do everything that is in my power to make new friends, to create experiences, and to have stories to share. So I basically went from excitement to depression, and in the end, salvation, as you could say. So what was the actual problem, right? If you want to look at it in a concise manner, first of all, you need to be part of the ecosystem of the city, because if you move to a new city, you're not part of the ecosystem at the beginning, right? You are still an outsider. So you have to actively take the steps to become part of the ecosystem. And this, most of the times, it's not going to happen naturally. You have to force yourself into the ecosystem. And this already starts with the location of your apartment, right? Now, my uncle, he always said, he's a real estate guy, and he always said, the most important thing about owning an apartment, or renting an apartment, or whatever you want to say, those are the big 3 L's, right? So the first one is location. The second is location. And I'm guessing you know what the third one is. It is location as well. And that is so true. When you move to a new city, you need an apartment that is in a good location. You much rather have a small apartment in a good location than a big apartment or a nicer apartment in a bad location. Why is that? So if you take an apartment in the center of the city, then you can just walk out of your apartment. You'll have your gym, you'll have your grocery store, and you'll have the venues that you frequently visit, right? So I was lucky in Paris because I had a small apartment in the center. And this is actually where all of my people were, the people in the fashion industry, in the art industry. I was working as a photographer. I mean, still am, but at the time. And so that's why I could just walk everywhere. I could walk to the bar that I was frequently visiting, right? I could just walk to the gym and all of that. I built my own ecosystem when it came to getting groceries, going to the gym, going to my fighting gym as well. Everything was near, so I could always be on the move. I didn't have to plan to go to the city. I didn't have to invest half an hour or even 1 hour to go to the city, which is the case with a lot of people, especially when they go to a big city like New York, right? When I was in New York, most of the people that I met, they were living in the Bronx. They were living in the far east of Brooklyn, which I understand because it is so unaffordable to live in Manhattan. But here's the thing. I'm sure you saw these videos, of these expensive small apartments in Manhattan. And people are always outraged. Like, why would you pay $2,000 for such a small, tiny box, right? But I'm telling you, honestly, I would much rather live in such a tiny apartment. Much rather. Imagine the experiences that I have. I'm not going to a city to just stay at the apartment. I'm going to a city to go out of the apartment. I just need a place to stay at. And I'd much rather have this place in a center where everything is accessible, rather this than having to go 2 hours to get to the Penn station. So this was the first step. But here actually comes the part where you force yourself into the ecosystem. It is having a mission that involves the city itself. It is having a mission where you need to talk to people, right? You need to talk to the people who are locals and passing by. You need to talk to them because you need to achieve something through them. So I'll give you an example. In Paris, I was still working as a photographer from anywhere, right? I didn't need clients in Paris in order to make money through my photography. But I decided that, you know what? Even though I'll make less money if I do photography in Paris, I will try to get clients in Paris. Because what did that mean? That meant that I needed to talk to people. I needed to make connections in order to get clients. It seems really simple, but now imagine if I am at point A where I don't have any friends or I'm not part of the ecosystem and I want to get to point B where I have Parisian clients. What comes in between? The way from point A to point B is actually what makes me part of the ecosystem, right? If I need to talk to people, if I ask them, you know anyone who is looking for a photographer? I started writing people on Instagram who were locals in Paris if they wanted to collaborate. And this is what actually made everything much more fun. This is what made everything more fulfilling. Because this forced me to talk to people. This forced me to improve my French. This forced me to actually build real relationships. Now, by the way, if you need help creating a mission, I have a free PDF in my online community. You can join for absolutely free. Link is in the description and you get the free PDF right away when you join. So the last point is to create an actual network in the city you are at, right? So let's say you have your mission, you're already part of the ecosystem. Well, now comes the time where you actually build those relationships and you actually create real relationships, real friendships, right? Real business relationships. And you only do that by maintaining and really deepen the relationships with the people that you meet along the way when you go from point A to point B, right? So what did I do with the clients that I had? I built those friendships. I invited them out for coffee, I made proposals. I was like, hey, listen, for your project, I had this idea. Maybe it can inspire you. Maybe you should try that. Just letting you know. Not even asking anything for that. I didn't ask money for giving them tips, on their business, or not even tips, like just propositions or, just inspirations that I had, which I thought might help them. Invest in these people. And they will be glad to invest in you as well. Because if you have a real relationship with these people, if they hear someone, they say, oh man, my current photographer, he sucks. I'm looking for a new one, but I just don't know how to find someone. There are so many scammers out there or amateur photographers. Well, this person will just tell them that, well, I know Nishat. You should work with Nishat, right? And you don't need to be a photographer in order to do that. You can just do something else. Even if you're just a person who is well connected, you invite people to stuff, you organize events. Organizing an event can also just mean inviting lots of people to go to a bar together or to a club, right? Or even just to get dinner together or cook something. But so many people, they cannot even do that. So many people nowadays, they're just so isolated where they cannot get out of their box. They're just waiting for someone else to pull them into the ecosystem, and you will be that person. This is my point. Nowadays, even though so many people are isolated, when you are the person that actually decides, no, I'm not gonna be like that, then you will draw so many people into your circle, right? Into your proximity, and you will have a lot of power when it comes to that. You will have so much power to create stories, to create relationships, to connect other people. Imagine how great that is. Like, you invite two people, you connect them, and they build a new friendship. Imagine how satisfying that is, And so that's basically it. Create your own ecosystem, right? Be in the center of the city if possible. Create a mission where you force yourself to become part of the ecosystem. And then you create a network. And this is when you fight the depression. This is when you defeat the depression. And this is actually when you start to enjoy the new city that you move to. And honestly, even if you're not moving to a new city, you can also do that in your city where you're at right now, because a lot of people are isolated and have no meaning, no relationships in the city that they grew up in. right? So, as I always say, blend in, stand out, and belong anywhere. Take care.